Depends how many things.
You like, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Well, good evening and welcome members, officers and those members of the public here at the meeting and those joining us virtually. Before we actually get into tonight's agenda, can I ask you to please stand and join me in a minute's silence as we remember our colleague, Councillor Christie. Thank you all. I think item one on the agenda is apologies for absence, firstly.
Thank you, Chair. So apologies have been received from Councillor Lauren Bright, Councillor Ford, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Heffel, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Hall.
Yeah. Item two is public contributions, and we have one member of the public that wishes to speak, Mr. Desmond Willits, and his objection to Torres District Council's levelling up grant and failure to respond to a complaint. Mr. Willits, we'd like to approach the lectern. You have 3 minutes from when you begin speaking, sir.
Good evening. I am not objecting to the grant. I'm objecting to the way in which it's being treated. TDC officers and elected council leaders have sought the advice of consultants on the way to respond to the government's offer of a levelling up grant in order to narrow spatial equality over the whole of the Torwich area with the rest of the country. The 15.6 million grant is welcome, but a fraction of that awarded to similar districts across the UK and also other grants to projects in South Devon, the Great South-North Divide. The full council meetings in December 23 and January 24 voting to appoint a place board to address the basic issues without referring to a new clean maritime innovation centre in Appledore. The quoted capital cost of the new building, coincidentally the same as the total grant. Ongoing revenue costs unknown, at the same time severing its connection with the Great South West LEP. The votes made without councillors being made aware of all the facts and implications, responsibility, total running costs and ability to perform, duplicating development projects, Exeter and Plymouth University have already received government grants for. Tonight's meeting on Devon Council's devolution plan for Devon and Tor Bay, adding to the overall implications, being a typical example of passing the buck for responsibility by means of delegation or devolution. Without a clear understanding of what effect this could have on Torridge's plans and costs for using the level up grant, makes nonsense of the next full council meeting on setting future capital and revenue budgets. As an alternative to the stagnated Celtic Sea offshore floating wind turbine plans, lack of government funding, and alternative marine technology innovation, including a business plan answering the main criteria necessary to receive a levelling up grant, has been offered to leading elected councillors, but ignored. The main objective to answer the UK present energy crisis by providing a secure, affordable 24/7 supply of renewable electricity to both the domestic and industry market, bringing North Devon to the centre of its supply chain and ownership back into UK hands. The holding company investment plan, including its integration with other renewable generation sources, accessing further government funding and
Could you begin to wind up, please?
I'm winding up, and private investment with the council owning the international property rights and marketing rights. It is not understanding what is free offer being ignored.
I'm afraid your time is now up.
It's not the local economy with new diverse future job opportunities for our children and protecting the environment paramount to individuals' personal status or persona. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willits. Item 3 on the agenda is declarations of interest. And members, you all know the score about it on that score. So if there are any items that you wish to declare, please do so at the appropriate time on the agenda. Item 4 is agreement between items part 1 and 2. There are no part 2 items this evening. So moving on to item 5, to consider correspondence brought forward by the chair. I have none. Item 6 is the Devon and Torbay devolution deal proposal and consultation, which is pages 3 to 6 on your agenda, on your minutes. And I'll hand over to Chief Executive to start the ball rolling on that. Thank you, Steve.
Excuse me. Thanks, Chair. Good evening. So this is the main item of business on tonight's agenda. You have quite a short report in front of you, which does just detail some of the background. It doesn't seek to go into detail around what the deal's about, what the offers might be, etc., etc. I'll hand you over to colleagues from Devon County Council shortly. We'll go through a presentation explaining all of that. Councillor James, the leader of the council, and I have been engaged through Team Devon, which incorporates all the district council leaders and chief execs, as well as the chief exec and leader of Devon County Council throughout the process. And you'll note on page 4 of the report, that's the only bit of detail I've put together, is some of the concerns and matters that have been raised during those debates and discussions, and they're there for your consideration. The recommendation on page 6 of the report is to note the Devon and Torbay devolution deal proposal and resolve whether to respond to the consultation, and if so, the content of that consultation response. So with that, Chair, I'll hand over to Terry Danton and Mary Price from Devon County Council, who will run through a presentation and answer any questions members may have.
Good evening. So I'm Terry Denton. I'm the Director of Performance and Partnerships.
Speaking as a mic.
Oh, takes you back to Terry. Okay. I won't be before.
Step as close as you can.
Is that better? Can you hear me? Right, okay. So I'm Kerry Denton. I'm the Director of Performance and Partnerships at Devon County Council. Thank you very much for having myself and Maria here, who's Director of Legal and Democratic Services. I'm hoping the next 20 minutes will be enough to take you through the presentation, and then we'll take questions if that's okay. So I able assistance at the back. So the next one, please. So in terms of what is devolution, very simply, very basically, it is about the transfer of powers that are held centrally by central government coming down to the local area, namely Devon and Torbay, to enable decisions for those functions, for those investments and for those powers to be made locally. And we believe this is a more effective way of targeting those resources to do the things that matter to us at the local level. Next slide, please. So this isn't a new phenomenon, it's been around for a while. It's part of the current government's policy with an aim to have devolved administrations across England everywhere by 2030. Currently 60% of the English population, so devolved administrations in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland already, have a devolved administration in which they live. It's quite formulaic, the way that government have approached this. It was all set out in the Levelling Up white paper. And a menu of opportunities was presented to us to negotiate around. We believe we've stretched a level 2 deal fairly far. We're in good company. Cornwall is moving forward with a devolved opportunity, and Lancashire is about a few weeks ahead of what we announced in the autumn statement, and they're also moving forward with the devolved opportunity. And we had the proposal from government, and that was announced on the 25th of January. Next slide, please, Tom. So why does this matter? Well, being able to have influence with government directly, being able to bring down powers, bring down investment to our local area, will allow us to address some of our key challenges. In such a place as Torridge, you'll experience all of these, and there are many others. But productivity across Devon lags about 29% across, behind the national average. So that tends to lead to significant pockets of deprivation, whether that's in wards in Exeter, towns such as Ilfracombe, or districts such as Torridge. It also means that we have less opportunities for our young people, and we see what's known as the brain drain. Unfortunately, young people having to leave the area to pursue careers further afield. Some of that relates to our housing situation, where we know that average wages do not compete to afford homes in our local area. And we know that we struggle with connectivity, whether that's digital, whether that's bus services, whether that's road transport. So we believe by taking some of the powers on offer from government, some of the investment that's currently on offer from government, we'll be able to address some or all of these challenges together and over time. We do also have a number of opportunities which will also allow us to address some of these challenges, whether it's looking at, we just heard a little bit about the floating offshore renewable opportunities and clean maritime and the work that's obviously ongoing within Appledore. So some of the environmental technologies is a core strength that we have. We also have creative sector, digital sector businesses and significant clusters. We know that our bedrock sectors are still really significant in the employment that they generate, whether it's in food, farming and fishing, or whether it's in our tourism and leisure opportunities. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to talk about now is a little bit about the ambitions and the priorities within the proposal for the devolution deal. Next slide, please. So this is, a bit motherhood and apple pie, but our ambition is absolutely to raise those levels of prosperity, to ensure that we have more learning opportunities, that we can foster business growth, because businesses are what make the growth happen. We set the right conditions for that, to ensure that we're more competitive as a local economy. Next slide, please. So the proposal, if you've had a chance to read it, these 6 areas are what are covered in terms of our priorities. So it's about maximising those opportunities that we've just spoken about to address some of those core challenges. It's about trying to find solutions to our housing crisis and housing pressures. It's about maximising opportunities to improve our local connectivity through our local transport networks. It's about setting up and meeting some of the carbon net zero challenges that we have, working very much the Devon Climate Change and Emergency Plan. It's about trying to secure and draw in that investment to our local area and building ultimately to a stronger and sustainable local economy. So the specifics around the benefits in the deal, I'll just run through on the next few slides. In essence, they are about addressing these issues, but conscious of time, I'll just dive into the next slide, please, and we'll talk about the local economy. So the Combined County Authority, once established, will take on the lead role to promote economic growth for Devon and Torbay, very much working closely with businesses. It provides additional opportunities to create jobs and increase investment. And one of the elements of the deal is that we will draw down the powers that already sit with the Local Enterprise Partnership. You're probably aware that the Local Enterprise Partnership is coming to an end shortly, and initially those functions and responsibilities transfer to Devon and Torbay, Somerset and Plymouth Upper Tier authorities. But as soon as the Combined County Authority is established, those functions will sit with the Combined County Authority. We're also engaging with the other departments outside of the current proposal we have. So we're already developing a local visitor economy partnership opportunity, working with the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport. We're engaging with Innovate UK about drawing down more research and development funding. And we're also working very hard around inward investment. So those are just some of the new opportunities that aren't even set out in the proposal that are underway. Next slide, please. So in terms of skills, we will have the adult education budget devolved down to us here in the local area. That's worth about 15 million per annum. That will allow us to design that programme. That will allow us to commission that activity, and it will allow us to work with local skills providers rather than accepting nationally awarded contracts. It will also bring with it opportunities around additional training options around technical skills. And we are working around employment support at the moment. So a new part of the proposal is for the Department of Work and Pensions to devolve down the universal support scheme. Next slide, please. So in terms of housing, that rests with you. You are the housing authority. This isn't taking away powers. This is about the CCA being able to accelerate and support better investment by working jointly with Homes England, with yourselves and other district authorities in Torbay to develop an investment pipeline. £2 billion was handed back last year to Treasury from Homes England, and we feel that we should have had a share of that before it was handed back. So anything we can do to accelerate and work with you to take forward the recommendations from the Devon Housing Commission Task Force to support that shared pipeline of investment with Homes England is an opportunity that now presents itself through the devolution arrangement. We're also engaging in conversations about drawing down the Brownfield Land Release Fund and the Affordable Housing Funding. 8 million capital, sorry, that's all right. 8 million capital is referred to on the slide. We actually have been awarded 16 billion upfront. 8 million of that we would like to earmark towards bringing forward affordable housing, and we need to work with you to develop and see what that looks like, and I'll come on to where the balance of that money is going to be allocated with your support. So next slide, sorry. So transport. So this is a power, the local transport authority power currently sits with Devon and Torbay councils. We are transferring that into the combined county authority. And that means that we benefit from being able to work with bus operators to develop through ticketing. It will allow us to commission public transport more locally. This is some of the powers that can come down from government to the combined county authority. Gives us that stronger voice to take advantage of future opportunities under transport. And it will slot in and work across the whole peninsula. So it's not trying to do this just for Devon and Torbay. Obviously, something as significant as transport does require a peninsula response. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned net zero and low carbon, and so the balance of that 16 million will go towards working with businesses and working with local skills providers around creating more green jobs and green opportunities. We have, through the proposal, strong engagement now with DEFRA in terms of regenerative farming and carbon capture. And I know the biosphere and the work that you do up here is really significant in that area. And we also are working with the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero about extending the opportunities under this deal. Next slide, please. So in summary, and I think one thing I want to emphasise on this slide is the last bullet point. This is a starter for 10. Every other devolved area across England has responded to say that this is just the start. So what you start on day one from government, that influence that you get, being able to sit around the table and fight your corner of the country brings so much more benefit over time. So the 16 million, some of the adult education budget funds, other powers that I've referred to, might not seem that it adds up to something that's wow and overwhelming. I probably would agree with you, but it is just that starter for 10. but it gives us that dialogue directly with government, which is something we have never had before. So next slide, I think, takes us on to governance. And again, please, Tom. So in designing the governance for the Combined County Authority, we've worked to a number of principles. Those on the left are the ones that government set out. Those on the right are what we've developed and added to through Team Devon that Steve referred to. We recognise that this will only be successful where it's a true and genuine partnership, that there is a place for everyone, where we're adding value, not duplicating, taking over, where we recognise the expertise that you have in your local areas, your local geographies, and that we bring this forward through collaboration. Next slide, please. So this is diagrammatically the proposed county combined authority. I'll talk through these boxes briefly. So the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act is the legislation that establishes combined authorities and supports devolution across England. That sets aside types of membership. It includes constituent members for equitable authorities, and we're proposing that we have 3 members for Devon and 3 members for Torbay. It does establish non-constituent members, which are district authorities, and we're proposing 4. There will be 2 members from district authorities. The Police and Crime Commissioner will take one of those seats, and there's a 4th one that's left vacant for Plymouth, should they choose to join in the future. And then there are associate memberships, which are non-voting, and there would be 1 held over for business and 1 held over for skills. Because it's a public entity, because all the decisions are being placed in that democratically elected membership, there is, as you would expect, an overview and scrutiny committee and audit committee that will obviously look at all of the work of the CCA and report in the normal way. Recognising that the law does not allow district councils to have the same level of voting rights as a county council or the unitary authority in Torbay, we've tried to address that deficit of democratic accountability by creating the Team Devon Joint Committee. That is where the county council, all 8 districts, the national park and the Association of Local Councils will come together to gather a Devon perspective or a Devon view, which effectively can then be represented in the areas where constituent authorities are not permitted to vote. We will still be writing the constitution for the CCA, and I'm sure you'll have views and feelings on this point around governance. And with my colleague Maria, who will be writing the constitution, sat there, we're very avidly listening to things that matter to you to see if we can weave that into the constitution. Right, next slide, please. So as I repeat, the voting rights are set out in the Act, and there is no casting vote for the chair. That's a question we've often had. The majority of the time we don't expect to vote. We expect that the CCA will make its decision through consensus. Next slide, please. So advisory boards were mentioned on that diagram. We will be setting these up in shadow form in the next few weeks. And again, through Steve and Team Devon, we hope that you'll work with us to do that. To represent the business voice, we're going to be creating a business advisory group. And that will take over that sort of business voice function that the Local Enterprise Partnership has been delivering. There'll be a group looking at skills and employment. That doesn't exist across Devon currently, nor does the business voice in the form of a business advisory group. So they will represent you advisory groups. But we want to work with you to make sure that that adds value and works alongside what you have at the local level. The Housing Task Force does exist, so we're proposing that that becomes the forum in which districts will lead on all of the housing elements within the deal. There is an existing Devon Climate Change Group, and I've got that name slightly wrong, I'm sure, but there is an existing group, and we propose that they become the Net Zero Advisory Board or group. An investment board, that's something we will stand up over time. So as money flows down from government, we want to make sure that we have a proper, robust governance process for all investment decisions and priorities. Existing transport arrangements are there between Devon and Torbay, and we'll just add and build on those, recognising that that group will work alongside the Peninsula Subnational Transport Board. Right, next slide, please, takes us on to the consultation. So as Steve's mentioned, we're in a live consultation at the moment. That comes to an end on the 24th of March. We're here presenting you with some of the information, and hopefully you'll feel minded to submit a response to that consultation. There is a lot more information on the website, which I think will come up on the next slide, where you can see the table of powers and a bit more detail about the proposal. It's open to residents. It's a public consultation. Next slide, please. So there is the website and what it includes. It includes frequently asked questions. And we do have some summary leaflets here today and a business card if you'd like to take some of that away with you. But otherwise, yeah, website's probably the best place to go. Next slide, please. So what happens next? So consultation completes by the 24th of March. County Council and Torbay will then need to give due consideration to those responses and produce a summary document, which will need to set out how we consulted, what we consulted on, what the responses were, and what our response to those feedback points were. All of that gets woven into a full council decision by Devon and Torbay councils that will all be put in the public domain, and we anticipate doing that in April. If the Secretary of State feels we've done that well enough, then he will give a minded to decision to seek parliamentary approval during May. And that effectively starts the statutory process, the legislative part, which Maria can probably explain a lot better than I. But essentially, there will be a new statutory instrument laid in the House, which is then debated across the summer, and it's in both Parliament and in the House of Lords. Assuming all of that passes, that debate, then we will be consented under a regulation order to stand up the Combined County Authority, anticipated in October, possibly November. And the very next day, 24 hours later, the CCA comes into being and we have to have it fully stood, fully arranged within 2 weeks, have its scrutiny function established and its organisation. And I think that concludes the presentation.
You're going to go first before we ask questions, are you? Is that the way it's going to work?
Any constitutional one, that's Maria.
Okay, well, I think before we hear the next speaker, we'll ask some questions, otherwise we'll probably forget all about it. Councillor Locke, first of all.
Yeah, I was interested, there's a place left on the board for Plymouth should they wish to join. I mean, is that not a wasted position at the moment? You can have someone with more expertise, and how long will that position stay open for?
So, yes, it could be if they choose not to join, but we needed to provide that opportunity. Government required it of us. Obviously, they have elections in May and they may take an alternative view.
Councillor Mrs. Burton.
Thank you, Chair. It just follows on from Councillor Locke's question, really. Have you any idea why Plymouth doesn't want to join? Because you do say at the beginning that the initial negotiations involved Plymouth, Torbay, and the rest of them. So what is the reason why they're not joining?
So they chose not to join when they realised that the local transport authority powers needed to pass into the Combined County Authority. They felt that that was a backward step for them. We took an alternative view that the constituent parties in the Combined Authority are us, and so actually there wasn't any jeopardy in making that decision, but it was a political decision by the coloured party in Plymouth for those reasons.
Okay, so they didn't agree with you, basically. And the other thing is on page 4, bullet point 3, there's a very contradictory statement. I don't understand. You say because this does sound a bit like a talking shop in which only 2 district councils will have any kind of voting rights, which is, I find, a bit worrying. You say, where is it? We welcome and firmly support the proposal to move Team Devon onto a more robust governance, etc. And then you say, however, we regret that such a workaround is necessary and note the policy paradox. So, I mean, 2 completely contradictory statements, really, which I find it hard to get my head around. They can't both be right. So, you know, what's going on there? Because either this is a good type of governance and voting rights system, or it's not, and you can't be totally against it and totally for it at the same time. And actually, personally, the fact that there's only 2 district councils that would have kind of voting sitting members seems very detrimental to me. And we have been through this before several times, in my experience, while I've been on the council. And,
Yeah.
you know, it all came to a terribly sticky end. And I just feel that the district councils are the ones that will lose out in the end if there isn't really good, strong governance that supports the district councils, because I thought that was the whole idea, it was a grassroots effort, and it doesn't sound like it is anymore.
It's the Act that's decided that point, not us. It's not of our making or choosing, should I say. But Steve, I don't know if you want to answer the question in your report.
Yeah, so that was the point I put in my element in the report, some of the concerns that have been raised by the Devon district leaders. Obviously that is amendment proposed to allow a greater voice for districts, but that failed during the parliamentary process. So as Kerry indicated, it's the legislation that's stipulating the voting rights. However, the intention of the Team Devon model, I don't know if Tom can go back to that governance model, that page. So the bit at the bottom, as Kerry indicated, is a means of trying to build something where it's been missed through the legislation, hasn't been allowed in the legislation, a means of having a greater level of representation. I think Councillor James may touch on that a little bit later in wrapping it up. But
Councillor Newton first, and then Councillor Brendan.
Chair, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Could you just explain, please, in terms of constituent members, both Devon have 3, Torbay have 3. So on an equal partnership, rough maths and consulting the internet just now, the population of Devon, less Plymouth and less Torbay, is roughly 416,000. The population of Torbay is 136,000. What's equal about that?
It's not done on population, unfortunately. It's done on type of authority. So it's an upper tier authority that's granted constituent membership.
Councillor Brendan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's I think it's slowly unraveling a bit, isn't it? It sounds like mother and apple pie, except how's the slicing going to go? Because we know that we have always suffered in this area, in Torridge. We've always been the bottom of the pile. Devon County don't treat us very well. We don't get much out of them. Manifest tonight. Where's the county councillor here tonight? Do we ever see them? Do they really care about what happens in Torridge? However, the thing is, what we need to have, I think, is some in the constitution. If we're not going to have the numbers, we've got to have some form of appeal to the Secretary of State if the decision goes against us, and it will, because we'll be outgunned every time. It's seen it all before. So we need to have some mechanism whereby we could, if we come up with a good project or whatever in Torridge and got merit, etc., and the rest say, oh no, we're not, we're going to shove it down the Torquay, go away. We need to be able to say, we want to go to the Secretary of State and say, you look at this again, because our case is better than theirs. And we got that in this proposed constitution. Doesn't look like it here anyhow.
So the constitution's still got to be written at the moment. That would be my joy. What we would say, and rely on the swings, that the only way you've been able to do anything around the legislation is to try and give some district voice. But that's certainly something I can take back on so far as how we're going to write into the constitution and give you some form of appeal or greater voice, really. But the structure that you see in front of you is our best attempt at making sure you do get a voice. The districts do have a seat at the table effectively. The only other thing we'd say in the swing, obviously, and I know it's not on numbers, but we'd say yes, DCC have 3 votes, but the district have 2, and the districts are Devon, it's not Torbay.
I think, I've got just a quick question. Clearly Whitehall, London is a long, long way from here. But equally, a lot of us feel that Exeter almost seems to be just as long because of the lack of representation that we get and support from county. It certainly feels like they're very distant as far as we're concerned. So I would hope that if this proposal is successful, Devon County Council, as I see Devon County Council and see them in operation, would have to change significantly and up their game in order to be able to make things better. I'll give you one small example. I'm also a town councillor, bit of a town councillor. 2.5 years ago, the town council attempted to put a taxi shelter up on the taxi rank in Bideford. The town council were paying for it. The land is owned by Torres District Council, who have no objection. But because it's on the highway, the pavement is part of the highway, we had to get the consent of Devon County Council. And this is at no cost whatsoever to Devon County Council. 2 years down the road, I still haven't got consent for it. And I've recently had a series of email conversations with your leader, John Hart, who's taken him to personally intervene to try and get some movement on it. I mean, that sounds like we're getting something from Scotland, but an accident. So it's not really very good, our personal experiences, which is probably why you can feel, quite a bit of negativity around the room. So you're going to have to be really, really good saleswomen who actually sell it to us, I can tell you that.
Okay, so I apologise on behalf of the authority if we've not responded well enough. I'm really happy to take any of those comments via email and we will do our best. I hope Sean and Steve will testify that me and my team are up in North Devon fairly often, Northern Devon. We were in this very room 10 days ago, working with Northern Devon Futures. But yes, we can probably do better for you. One point to reassure on, the CCA is not going to have an office and it's certainly not going to be based in Exeter.
Thank you, Chair. Having read the devolution Devon and Torbay deal published on 20th of January, there's one paragraph there, 27, that says no local authority functions are being removed from any local authority in the area other than transport, as agreed with the constituent council. So there's a lot of work going on in the background. What does that actually mean? Who's going to do transport? Does that mean roads? Does that mean railways? Does that mean buses? Can you just explain why that's in bold print in the document that's published by gov.uk? Thank you.
So it's the local transport authority, it's not the highways authority, so that remains very much with the county and Torbay. So it's the transport planning function that will move into the combined county authority, which hopefully does reassure you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've been given a state of conflict here with this. There's a consultation process that finishes on the 24th of March, but it's a done deal, this, as far as the county and Torbay are concerned. There's nothing in it really, and I've read through it here. There's nothing in here for the 8 district councils in Devon. The 6 full voting rights, 6 of them, 3 from Torbay, 3 from Devon County. Nothing for this team Devon Joint Committee won't be worth a thing. How much is it going to cost to set this CCA up?
So there's nothing more I can say about the voting. I can't change the act. If I could, I may wave my magic wand. So in terms of setting up the CCA, we have been awarded £1 million from government spread over the next 3 financial years. Whether we need all of that to create it, I don't know. The model that we will be working on is that we will use existing staff, existing resources, including from district authorities. We'll be bringing together the economic development teams across Devon and Torbay, working alongside district authorities. It will have a small team. It will need to have statutory roles, but each of those will be shared. So Chief Executive, the Monitoring Officer, and Section 73.
I'm just seeing here, that it says that the cost of establishing the CCA, the net from the overall resources of the CCA.
Yep, so what that means,
That's ratepayers.
No, it doesn't have the ability to do precept. It doesn't raise any money from the taxpayer directly. Any monies that we're awarded from government, so we talked about 15 million from adult education budget. There will be an administrative budget that comes with that. So it's transferal of government central monies down to us to help run that locally.
And how much new money, I mean, I read it here, there's £250,000 capacity funding in the first year, 24-25, 500,000 in the 25-26, and 250,000 in 26-27. That's capacity funding. How much new money is coming in
So there's
this CCA?
stood here
A
today.
lot of it's recycled existing funds.
So that what you quoted there is the £1 million that I was referring to. There's 16 million brand new money that we wouldn't otherwise have had as a starting point.
Not much, is it?
No, it's not, no. And there's 15 million per annum through the adult education budget. There's another 3 million from free skills for technical skills as well. And that's what's on the table at the moment. But I think what I was trying to emphasise earlier is a starting position.
Yeah, I just think there's nothing in it for the district councils, that's all weird. We're at the bottom of the chain again. I can see why Devon County Council are all for it, because they wanted a unitary authority years ago. They came up here banging the drum for that, and that failed for them.
Councillor Piper.
Thank you, Chair. I do like the idea of devolution. And it sounds like this is a starting point, which you've got to start somewhere. I think people have picked up on the fact that it does strike us all that obviously Torbay are probably quite chuffed about this, but it sounds like that's the structure that Whitehall have sent down to us, and that's what we've got. So I suppose my question is, if this is the start, are there examples where governance could change as things go along? Because I guess the best way for it to be sold to an authority like Torridge would be that it will increase, say, and perhaps monies will move down. There's obviously a strong feeling that money gets stuck over the hills of Dartmoor and doesn't get to our side of the region. So do you know, moving forward, if devolution increases, is there a way that the governance could change? Because I would imagine most authorities in Devon would see the imbalance of the voting rights at the moment, even though that's not your vote. And just one last thing on transport, probably for a read that highlights the fact really that, you know, to have a bit more say in transport planning is okay, but probably for an authority like us or an area like us, we just actually would like to say, we'd like more say on how our roads are maintained, and connectivity is actually just about missing the potholes, unfortunately.
Yeah, we call them safety defects. But yes, absolutely, that remains with the county, so that dialogue needs to continue with us as the Highways Authority. I think the law stands. I don't think it will get changed, but obviously there are things we can do within the constitution to perhaps reassure.
Certainly not, I'll definitely take a note of that one when we start drafting the constitution.
Before I come to Councillor Craig, can I, the huge overspend that Devon County Council have for children and adult social services, what happens to that overspend?
So you're talking about the special education needs?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are
About £200 million worth or something like that, almost?
38 billion this year. Is that the same figure you're talking about? Yeah,
And at the moment, that's an overspend.
yeah.
That I understand Devon County Council are told to set aside somewhere in a separate account and it'll be taken care of later.
Yeah, and
So who takes care of it later?
so we're about to do an arrangement with government, which will settle a goodly amount of the overall spend. Probably best I don't say too much more at this juncture. But listen, we've got cabinet on Wednesday.
Councillor Craigie first.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to know sort of how long are we sure that the Treasury is actually going to fund
Yeah.
anything towards this? How soon are they going to pull the rug from under everyone's feet on this?
So it's a government policy, and if you read the manifestos for the other two parties, it's pretty much word for word the same. There's absolutely no guarantees, of course, but we would be sat around the central table in Westminster with 15 other devolved administrations doing a negotiation collectively for making sure that this remains in place for each area.
Mrs. Brunton?
Thank you, Chair. Right, on page 5, there's a list of implications. The first line is legal implications, and there's no legal implications apparently. Well, I suggest that there should be over this issue of being able to appeal decisions by district council. So I think there is a legal implication there. And then financial implications, because of course there's no specific financial implications for our budget here at Torridge, but clearly there's £1 million going into setting up this thing. And like Councillor Piper, I am actually in favour of devolution, but in the right way and bottom up, not top down, and a continued squashing of the little small authorities. That is not what I see as a good set of devolution processes. There's no human resource, there's no sustainability and biodiversity implications, there's no equality and diversity implications. Well, there surely isn't, because we're certainly not being equal. Most of the other district councils who don't get 2 of those voting places, we're not going to be equal. We're going to be second-rate district councils in this CCA. There's so many negatives. So my final comment is, what is the point? What good is this to us? What is the point of it?
Chair, I'll just deal with the first one. So, this report is based on the consultation. So this is my report based on the implications directly from the consultation on Torridge. So the fact that there's a £1 million to set up the county combined authority isn't an implication for Torridge Council, and that's why it's said in there.
Councillor Bright had his hand up first, and then
thank you, Chair. I mean, devolution is all about devolving powers of central government to local government. But what new powers does the CCA actually gain? I didn't really see anything clear cut. It seems like we've just got the exact same powers that all the collective authorities currently hold. What additional powers are they giving us?
So it will take the powers from Department for Education for the skills activity that we've just referred to. It is the local transport authority from us into the CCA. The table of powers is on the website. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but those are just 2 examples.
Sorry, let me just get this correct. So there's not very much in the way of new powers being devolved by central government going to this CCA. So what's the difference between the powers that you've got currently at Devon County Council and Torbay and what the new CCA will have if this goes ahead?
There are a number of powers. I can't honestly remember them off the top of my head, but if you go into the website, you will find the powers table listed.
Okay.
It doesn't load. It doesn't load. No, I don't know what number.
Councillor Newton, I believe you have to hand it.
Chair, thanks. Having been critical on the numbers and the equality between Torbay and Devon, I think there is an important factor here that we just need to put it into the correct context, that the devolution is very much from central government down to the higher tier of local government, down to the tier of county and the unitary, as in Torbay, coming together. It's not further down. And we shouldn't necessarily be expecting to have control of something that we don't have control over, nor will we be required to work towards. If we were taking on greater responsibility within the district and had greater responsibility for administering certain things or whatever, or determining the policy, then we would want a greater say on that thing, but we're not, because actually this is money that's coming down, and in a way, it's a more efficient way of actually handling that money. Whether it's greater coordination of housing across, money for housing across the area, or transport across the area. So I just put in context, people seem to sound like actually it's ours, but we haven't got a say over it. It's not actually ours. It's money that stops at the tier above us. That's a point I'd just like to make. Thanks.
Somebody down, sorry, Anna, Councillor Dodd.
Yeah, so actually that's no different to currently highways have money and we are not in control of it. And we have issues, huge issues, certainly in my ward. And I drove from home to Exeter the other day, and I can tell you categorically, I went back roads via Sutton, didn't go on the proper main roads, and the worst road was in our ward. So, no, we don't have control over that. Devon County do. And Devon County, or the county councillors that I do see occasionally, have inferred that the money will be spent where the population is. So whilst it's not within our control, it's never going to be. We would like some, and we can't get it. Our roads are always going to be awful because we don't have the power. And at the moment, we put forward our voice, and that's all we can do. But that is going to be the same going forward. We'll put forward our voice, except, we won't have one because we don't even have a seat. So, you know, actually, we're at the end of the line. And we've just been in that workshop whereby we tried to ascertain what were our strengths and our weaknesses. And one of our main weaknesses, or call it a strength if you like, is that we are at the end of the line. And that is the good and the bad. And ultimately, we won't have a say. And this is what I think we're all really concerned about, is that actually that's fine if we get a little bit and, you know, we can manage, but we're not even getting a little bit anymore. We're just getting nothing. And I think that is a real fear going forward. And I know it's not within your control. You're setting up this whole thing, that's it. But frankly, you're all a little bit worried that the Department for Highways is going to rub onto actually everything that is really dear to us, and we need to sustain. You know, we are in charge of housing, and we are getting it built out. And if we don't get the infrastructure with it, or at least sustain what we've got, then where are we going to be? It's a bit of a worry.
Thanks for Dodd, probably summed up a lot of our feelings, you know, with, the deal that we get at the moment from Devon County Council to us, living in Torridge, not Northern, not Barnsley or North Horwich. We always seem to get, the rough end of the stick, and that, whether I remain to be convinced that, this devolution deal would actually change that for better. Councillor Hexaby, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not be supporting this in any shape or form. As an ex-employee, I did 10 years with Devon County. And I remember when one was in Exeter and going into North Devon. Oh, you're going up with the North Devon Savages. And that is the way they treat it. And I'll prove it to you. You look at the government's own document that we've been directed to. Paragraph 48, adult education. Very poor in Devon. Nationally, it's second worst in the country. But the last sentence. Such attainment and retention issues also vary dramatically across the area's 11 authorities, with degree level attainment within Horwich district among the lowest in the UK at 21.9. That is how we've been looked after by Devon in the past. That's how you'll be looked after by this new talking shop, as Councillor Mrs. Brenton describes it. And is it a talking shop? My golly, yes. You've got the combined authority. Then you've got another one beneath it. Then you've got all sorts of advisory bodies. Who's running them? Who's paying the bill? It's a farce.
Wow, I've lost my way now. Someone on this council side of me, but what's that?
Thank you, Chair. Well, yeah. If devolution is only giving powers to DCC and Torbay, or why are the districts involved at all? If we're not actually getting anything one way or the other, why are they part of the authority we're signing up to? I just don't really get, what do we really gain from it? What powers are coming to Torridge? Why should we sign our, futures away to something we don't even know what we're getting?
Well, we've always tried to work in partnership with the districts. I think, you've got a very loud and, good voice to bring to that. You've shown that this evening. I think it is better together. I mean, this is about fighting in, Westminster for the right share for our part of the world. I can't put it any more strongly than that, really.
Well, these two ladies have done a very good job on their presentation this evening, and they've taken a lot of criticism, a lot of abuse, etc. So let's hope that Councillor Craigie or whoever's going to be the last speaker is going to say something positive in their favour.
Well, I'm afraid that it's not entirely positive. I was at the meeting of Devon's Association of Larger Councils on Thursday, and there was a high degree of scepticism about adding an additional tier to local government. I wonder if you can explain why in Cornwall, obviously they've gone from a 3-tier system to a 2-tier system, why Devon will be going from a 3-tier system to a 4-tier system.
So we have not taken a step towards unitarisation.
Sorry, towards what? What was that?
We have not taken a step towards becoming a unitary authority,
Right.
which is what Cornwall have done.
Councillor Piper, I believe.
I don't know, Chair, if you just wanted that one little snippet of positivity to finish off.
Can you find one?
I'll try. Maybe the fact that things aren't going so well with our relationship with Devon County, maybe this provides an opportunity to hold Devon County to account, does give us a voice with the slightly complicated governance network that is on the board, and maybe it can't be any worse than it is at the moment. So give it a go and see what it can.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's quite a fair point.
Everybody who's ever said that's found that the.
But have you got any other speakers? Sorry, yes. I haven't forgotten the question. Please, your turn next.
Thank you, Chair. I know this isn't what John Hart used to refer to as complete devolution or going unitary, but he always cautioned us when he had his tough choices talks. He said, be very, very careful what you go in for, because you will usually end up, or you will always end up with a poorer part of Devon. And money has a gravitational effect in Devon. It always goes south. It sinks to the bottom. I think round this room tonight, you've got a pretty clear indication that we don't want to accept our 20 pieces of silver, because it's not going to work out well for us. You talk about a partnership, it has to be a partnership of equals. And if we can't outvote the other partners, if all our districts stick together, then we do not have a partnership. We have an enforced dictatorship. And let's be clear about that. And the details that I've read are very, very scant. please, would you tell us what will happen if we vote against it? Can we vote against it? And can the districts opt out? Or are we faced with fait accompli? Thank you.
So it's not a referendum, it's a consultation, it's the first thing to say. You're perfectly able to say you don't agree with it and you don't want to take part in it, and we will take those comments on board. Ultimately, will be the county council and Torbay's decisions.
So you are telling, please be blunt, are you telling us we will be outvoted?
Sorry, I might have misunderstood your question.
There is no vote.
There is no vote.
No, when this goes forward, can we opt out altogether? But when the decision is made, like Plymouth, can we opt out?
Yes, you don't have to be part of this arrangement.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to wrap this up now and ask Councillor James to actually give a closing statement, a closing comments.
No.
Right,
Got no say.
I've sat and listened to all your comments and basically it does reflect all the comments that we've discussed at Team Devon, which is the 8 district councils plus the county council. I would say, Terry, that enthusiasm has not always been there for it, but look at it another way, is that the money will be coming to Devon. Now, the Team Devon has worked very well in the past, and I would say that we're all sticking together on this. Yes, we haven't got a vote in the top table, which we opposed, and we tried to change and we couldn't. The House of Lords recommended that it should be changed, and the government squashed it because they didn't want that. Most of the we do will not change. The only issue is how much control we have that money coming down to actually operate what we do as a council. I've sat with the other district councillors continuously and gone through it. And as I said, there's not a lot of enthusiasm. There's also not a lot of choice. We could vote against it and we would end up with nothing. I think what we have to rely on, the districts have merged together, they try and drive it forward. It's my preferred option, but I think it is the only option. So what I would suggest is that we take the recommendations, that we note what we've been presented with, and that rather than accepting it, everybody's got questions, and if you direct those questions to myself and to the chief exec, then we will pursue them on behalf of district council, PPF, which is the district council forum, to try and resolve some of these issues. And I'm afraid, in one level, it's here, and the comments about Torbay and all that. Torbay is a unitary, so that's why they've come into it. And Plymouth decided they wanted to retain their own transport, but they will still be very dependent on Devon. You know, you can't just have a place with only roads and they don't go anywhere. So my recommendation is that we note the recommendations, and you can all respond individually, or you put together a load of questions that Steve and I take forward at future meetings to try and get more resolved. I think Kerry's done a good presentation and a good job, and I expect you do a bit like I do, which is backify it a little bit. But, you know, I would say Devon County have worked well with us. I've got some faith in them. And I can go back, well, I can go back 30 years ago when we asked Devon County about Holsworthy Industrial Estate, and they told us Holsworthy was a low priority. So I've been there, not quite got the t-shirt, but we've experienced that. But at the moment, some of the things we're doing, the youth centre and all that type of stuff, we're getting good support from Devon County. So let's try and be positive about it. And it's not going to be what we want, but we've got to get out of it what we can. Because if we walk away, we're going to end up with nothing. And that's not a choice.
Yeah, the way that I see it, Ken, tell me if I'm wrong with this. this is probably a done deal anyway, so irrespective of what we say as Torres District Council to this deal, it'll probably go ahead. If it goes ahead, it'll go ahead anyway, irrespective of what we say. But if we come out openly and we say officially as a council, we are against this proposed deal, surely that can only be of harm to us moving forward. Can only be. The fact that it is going to be a done deal, I don't see that we're going to have an awful lot of option other than to embrace the change that is coming, because clearly it is coming.
Well, I think if you read the report, there's still a lot of stuff that's not actually decided. You only change stuff if you're in the tent and not out the tent.
Yeah.
And the other 7 districts are heading towards it. So we'll be completely isolated. We won't be getting a say in what's coming. Surely it's better to fight the battle from within than to just stand back and say we don't like it and get completely ignored. That will not achieve anything. You know, my enthusiasm has not been good, and I won't name, but the other district councils that I sit with have all been the same arguments, the same queries. But the collective view is, although we haven't got the seat on the top table, which we should have had, that's a government decision. That's not Devon County, not Torbay, not the districts. It's a government decision. They rejected the House of Lords revision to that part of the policy. So we won't blame anybody, the government. So I think we do need to accept it and try and do something with it. And I just feel if we just step back, we will get nothing. The other 8 might sign, other 7 might sign up to it. And then just, you know, we feel we're isolated. Let's get out there, and Steve and I have been travelling all over the place, trying to get into it, trying to make our point of view. And obviously we've been successful with the Levelling Up Fund, with the Appledore. We're successful, we're trying to be successful with the Levelling Up Partnership. And there's a lot of confusion going on between the difference, the Levelling Up Fund and the Levelling Up Partnership. The Levelling Up Fund is dealing with projects. The Levelling Up Partnership is dealing with long-term development. And we will need county support doing that, because we've got to work with Devon County to achieve a lot of that. So my recommendation is, we note the recommendations. I can't resolve whether, well, we've got to decide whether we respond to the consultation. Now, whether you respond by saying, we're not going to listen, we're not going to do it, or whether we respond by putting a load of questions to the Chief Executive and the leader, saying, we're not happy and we'd like some of these things, more openness, more guidance on the stuff that's not decided. That is decided, the top tier. What we've got to do is fight for what's underneath it. And if all 8 districts stand together, I think county will have to listen. That's my honest opinion, having spent, what we've done this, a couple of years now, or certainly a while. But I will praise Kerry for a presentation and the work she's doing. And I hope she doesn't have to go away thinking you're all a bunch of.
Not at all. I will come back, I promise.
So that's my recommendation. I will propose, we note the recommendation and that we respond to the correspondence, the consultation by the Chief Executive and the leader, and hopefully we can allay the fears that are in it.
Chair.
All right, I got a second. I got, Councillor Leather wants to speak first. He's got a hand up very patiently.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank you both for coming up today. I mean, the chair said I'm facing abuse. We've not given any abuse at all. We've not given any abuse at all, and we wouldn't do on this.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming up. But it's very obvious that there's none of our Tories county councillors here tonight. I think that's absolutely disgraceful. But I will differ from what our leaders just said, because I think we should be making a response. And I've just jotted down here what I think we should respond to this. We should say that Torres District Council regret the fact that there appears to be very little involvement for district councils in the proposed CCA. Leave it at that. And I'll propose that if somebody would like to second it.
Chair.
Councillor Brownton?
Well, it's partly a point of order really, because it wasn't terribly clear about the second part. You know, note the report. I think the two officers here have heard our concerns this evening, and I think that should be the second part, that should take them away. This is still a consultation. We're not finished with this yet. We've got to see what the public have got to say and other interested parties, and then that should come back to this council again before we make any sort of final decision one way or the other. Sorry, and see what the other districts have got to say. So we've got the fullest picture to make any sort of decision at all, whether they want to stay in or go out, whatever it is. But we haven't got enough information here tonight. Several points that need to be raised, and I think that's the way we should go on that.
Okay.
I accept what Councillor Leather's saying, and we may well actually adopt that.
We've only got till the 24th of March to respond.
Let me bring Chief Exec in to respond to that, please.
Oh, that Councillor Leather point was the point I was going to make. Consultation closes 2 weeks today, so we won't get feedback from what the residents have said. That'll go into Devon and Torbay unitary as part of that consultation, so they then don't feed what Torridge residents have said back to us. So we've got 2 weeks today to form a response, should you wish to make a response.
I don't understand that. I mean, excuse me, Chair. If that's the case, we surely as a council should be seeing what the public have got to say about this proposal. Surely that's part of the consultations,
Yeah.
is it not?
And you will, there'll be a summary document, but that will be produced after the 24th of March, so you won't then have your own ability to put in a response, having seen what other people have said.
That's a backward way of doing democracy. I mean, we're supposed to represent our wards and the people in them and hear their views and respond accordingly. I mean, if we don't be able to do that only after the event, that ain't right. It simply isn't right.
Well, clearly, it's not our consultation, it's Devon County's consultation. Councillor Dart, thank you on that. Oh.
Motion, sorry, like to second Councillor Leather's motion and also urge everybody, if you are that passionate, put your typing skills where your mouth is and respond. Said consultation, because unless we put it in writing and there is more weight in numbers, then that will carry forward. Don't expect any change, but we will all have expressed ourselves and done our bit, because as you say, it's a fait accompli. However, we will have had our say and it will be on the record.
All right, I believe Councillor Bright, I think you're on that.
Thank you, Chair. Well, in addition to Councillor Leather's comments, I would also add that I think all the district councils should have a chair at the top table. There's no real reason why not to. And if, you know, government are the only ones who won't move, maybe they should look at it again.
Was there some of this then? All right, no, so Councillor Annie Brenton first and then Councillor Brenton.
I can tell you, this is an absolute stitch up there, if that's the situation, and it's also blackmail. We want to know more information and we can't get it, and that's a really vital bit of information about what our constituents do, but it's also about integrity and doing the right thing. This cannot be the right thing to do in the present circumstances. We don't know how many other district councils are going to go in. Councillor James says he doesn't know. So what if all the others feel the same way we do? I'll be surprised if some of them up this end of Devon don't feel the same way we do. So, you know, it's a disgusting way to conduct business. It's really, really bad. The government is pushing something down, pretending it's devolution, and it's not. It's completely misdirecting devolution and really transforming it into some kind of manipulative process so that they can spread the blame of the huge deficit that the county council has, and also close the mouths of district councils in their ability to protest about what goes on in our county. It's amazing. It's bizarre. I've never seen anything like it on this council before. It's disgusting.
Yes, anything.
Yes, Chair, on a response, I would like to record our concern about the governance arrangements. I come back to governance again and again and again. We got an imbalance, it's already been mentioned, and we need to look at that. And I've also looked at the scrutiny arrangements, and that worries me immensely as well. So we've got to hold people to account. You're saying we've got to go down the line a bit, but if we're going to stand on our responses tonight, I certainly have great concerns about how the governance and the imbalance between Torbay and Devon is working from that point of view. And I would call for a seconder of that be added to our response.
Let me just bring Stacey in a
I was
second.
just going to make a suggestion, because we've got the leader who's proposed that we note the report and that the consultation responses are fed in via the leader and the chief exec. But obviously there's many points that have been made tonight, and Councillor Lever's proposed that the disappointment regarding us having no involvement in the CCA. But why don't, Dem Services have minuted every person's point this evening. So would it be more sensible if they then fed that in and we feed that in through the consultation response, and then we picked up everybody's viewpoints tonight instead of.
Excellent.
That makes sense, yeah.
I've made a.
Oh, Chair.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
What we voted on in due course. Councillor Haynes?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, but will you feed that back, circulate those comments back to us, just to check before you send them off?
Yeah.
Do that.
The other thing is, how long has this consultation been going on? I thought it was 6 weeks. I mean, why haven't we had a meeting where we talked about it earlier? Giving us 2 weeks to respond.
Following on from Councillor Pennington, surely it's not just the consultation response back to CCA. We need to send that message to central government, because it's the act that's preventing that from happening. And Councillor James said that they've already been fighting for that and failed. So we must try again as a collective district council, that we need to have our voices heard within that governance arrangement. So I would add that it needs to go to central government as well.
I'll second that.
Complicated again.
I'll just come in there and just say, it is complicated. If you could get these responses, and Tom and Kirsty have obviously recorded all them, Steve and I will be at the DCN conference later this week, which is the district councils. We can start trying to feel out how the other 7 districts in Devon are doing, what they've done. I know 1 or 2 have done. I can't say exactly who or how many. I know some have already done the consultation. Would you like feedback from the others?
So we've had Mid Devons, West Devons. Not sure I've received East Devons yet. Has it? Okay. Dartmoor National Park. Am I missing one? North Devon. North Devon.
So most have they been published yet?
Their response will be part of what's.
Because we should play crafty, and if our response isn't going to be until the 25th of March, if we could read up what other councils have got up to the 23rd or 24th of March, we can respond to the last minute of what they want and what they responded.
I don't know if they put it on public record. We can check.
I think you're going to have to trust us to try and kill.
No, I don't trust you.
This is not easy, and I'm not all in favour of it. However, what's on the board now, it's not going to change. That is government policy, and we're being led to believe that if we change the government, it will still be the same. That's what we're being led to believe.
Well, that may be the case, but yeah.
We don't know.
No.
So really, I just feel that at the moment, if we get all these responses together, this evening on, and I take it we won't get a DDF meeting for a while because we've got DCN this week. So the DCN is the District Council Network, which is nationwide. The DDF is the Devon District Forum, which is the 8 districts plus the county. And we've worked together well. We've brought in the 2 national parks, Exmoor and Dartmoor. They've come in, and we've also, the body has brought in DELC, which is the District Council and Town Council. So we're getting a very broad picture of the whole area of what they want, and I would say it's nearly all the same as what we've discussed tonight, with the caveat that we know that what's
Quiet, please, over there.
it's not going to change. I'm quite happy with your recommendation, but I think that what we're saying here is to respond to the consultation, And if so, the content of the consultation. But that will be as a result of what you've been in to us, and you can all do it individually anyway.
Yeah. Councillor Newton first.
Just,
Hopefully that'll be the last one.
I
then we can-
would support Councillor David Brent in a rare occurrence. In that, I think your original suggestion is absolutely right. There are comments, multiple comments, which have been captured by the team at the end, coming through the chief exec and the leader. But we get sight of those back, written out in the Queen's English. And so they're able to have some debate on that. And we don't actually vote. We don't vote on King's English. We don't vote on any particular recommendation tonight, because I believe that's too hard and actually runs against gathering everything together, which Councillor Brent has suggested.
Councillor Leathers made a proposal and that was seconded, so we'll have to vote on it irrespective. So will that just read it out again?
I'll read it out again. It's not a hard, as Councillor Newton said.
Point of order, Chairman, there were two addendums to that, weren't there? I think they've got to be included, haven't they? So
They were amendments.
amendments.
Was, I am the seconder.
I don't know, amendments, they didn't alter anything, they added to it.
An amendment.
Read that one out first. then,
I'll
please.
read out what the proposal is, because it does say in here about, do we want to make a response? I believe we ought to make a response, and listening to everybody tonight, I think you all think we should make a response. It doesn't criticise, it doesn't knock, it just says that Torres District Council regret the fact that there appears to be very little involvement for district councils in the proposed CCA. And that's an absolute fact, we all accept that, I'm sure.
And that was seconded by Councillor Dart, and there was an amendment to that one, so someone?
Councillor Huntington.
Well, I propose, Chair, that the TDC have concerns over the governance and scrutiny of the CCA, and I'll leave it at that point, because that is our feedback, and it's a very simple, straightforward feedback. But TDC have concerns over the governance and scrutiny of the CCA. I'll leave it at that point.
We say that, and there's no point actually gathering in all the other comments, which is the detail.
And I'm a seconder, I think.
And the proposed added to that was that we send that to central government.
Okay, yeah, I'll take
So
that.
you're proposing that, you're seconding that.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Humpkin's point there. Thank you.
Right, so we take Councillor Leathers' proposal first of all. So it's been proposed and then seconded by Councillor Dart. All in favour of Councillor Leathers' suggestion, please show. Please show. And against? And abstentions? And the results are?
Four against and 2 abstentions.
Okay. Now coming on to Councillor Pennington's, which has been proposed by Councillor Pennington, seconded by Councillor Codhunkin.
Where's Ken James's?
We didn't make one.
We're just sorting that out.
Just voting on.
We just
We'll get yours in a second. We do that one's first.
All you're doing really is agreeing with the second one, is that we have the consultation. We reckon we feed it forward, which is what it says, you decide you want to respond. And that the content of what you want to respond is what you've just said. So you are agreeing with the second one anyway. And the question is, the first one is, do you note it? Yes, we note it. The second one is, do you resolve whether to respond to the consultation? You've decided.
We are going to respond.
Yeah, and you've decided what you want to put in it. So you've accepted the second recommendation anyway. So we're just prolonging it a little bit, because there are so many ifs and buts.
So, Councillor Pennington, do you accept that?
I made a proposal and it's been seconded, so I think you have no choice but to vote on
Okay.
it, Chair.
We'll vote on it then. Councillor Paddington's proposed it, Councillor Cotterhunk seconded. All in favour of that motion, please? Oh, this is in support of Councillor Paddington's suggestion. And against? Abstentions?
14 for, 13 against.
Oh, that was close. So we got two recommendations the same. Yeah. I remember. Right, okay, so we gotta do another one.
Yeah.
Right, so we gotta, can I have your attention, please? That's great. We've now got to. Councillor Cotterhunkin made it. Yeah, Councillor Cotterhunkin made an amendment, which was seconded by Councillor Craigie,
Yeah, to send it to the MPs.
to send it to our MP Central Government as well. All right, so all in favour of that, please show.
Chair, can I just go back on a point of order here, because we agreed, I agree with the Councillor Cotterhunkin's extension would be added to that proposal, so it would save you time.
That was why I seconded.
It was originally, when councillor Costa Honkin put that proposal forward, it was seconded by councillor Craigie, and then you put forward your proposal. I think it all got a bit mixed up, but when councillor Costa Honkin originally put that forward, councillor Craigie seconded it, and that was to go to central governance. Central government.
Okay.
And then you put your proposal forward, you're going to the government scrutiny.
Right, okay, so it's been proposed and seconded, all in support of Councillor Cotterhunkin's, that we send this complaint to central government, our concerns to central government as well as. Are you clear on that?
Yeah.
All in favour, please show. And against? And abstentions?
24 and 7 against, Chair.
Right, okay, there we go. Right. Thank you, ladies, for that presentation. I do appreciate you standing there for such a long time. It's been,
Safe journey home and watch the podcast.
Councillors, there's a jacket left in one of the rooms and it's on the second chair there, so.
Is it ticking?